Hi, and welcome to another video. Before I start telling you how to design your next sculptures in SketchUp, I wanted to talk to you about a sculpture that I just made. Okay, I'm not going to tell you how I made the sculpture. That's if you want to try and recreate things that I've done, that's up to you and watching the videos and learning how. If you just noticed that, by the way, that's just a couple replicas that I made, and I'm not going to tell you how to do that either. You'll find out by watching more videos. However, what I do want to show is that this is a good example of a sculpture because I use my shape tools to create all these different shapes that I have moving around in 3D around my object. I am going to say that I use the pencil tool a lot, and I pretty much used all the tools between this tool and this tool here. The reason that I wanted to show you this, however, is I want to show you what not to do. So I'm going to take this example and pretend that I want to get rid of something. Like maybe I don't like this middle triangle here, and I'm going to just use my eraser tool and erase it. The problem with that is that the eraser tool, first of all, it leaves haphazard things like this little line here. If I were to show a more dramatic example, I might just click my eraser tool around my piece, and you'll see that surfaces and sometimes edges disappear. If you left something like this, I would not know what you were intending. I would just see a bunch of holes and it looks incomplete, like a sketch. There's some lines hanging off here that aren't even in 3D or not even 2D because they're lines. They don't have a length and width, they just have one or the other. So this is definitely what not to do. If I want to erase an entire object, I could select it with my selection tool and triple click it. That makes the whole thing turn blue, and then I could press delete to get rid of messes like that. I could have also used my selection tool to drag a box over the entire object and press delete. But what you don't want is to have all these weird lines left all over the place, because that's not good for your craftsmanship grade. If I see something that, looks like anything even close to this or any leftovers from doing something like this, it just makes your project look like you didn't care enough to clean it up. So don't leave any of these little lines anywhere. Always make sure to use the selection tool, get the whole thing, and press delete. All right. This other thing I'm not going to show you how I made, but it is a problem. You might think to yourself, oh, well, first of all, by the way, it is another replica, but unfortunately it's been warped a lot. And it does kind of look cool, but it looks like something alien or something maybe from Krypton or distorted. And I'm not going to show you how I did it because I don't want you to figure it out, because if I show you, you'll want to do it. And this is something impossible for me to grade. Using the tools that this person did to make this problem happen made it so it looks random, and now I don't know how to grade it. Whereas this other version is an abstract sculpture using different geometric shapes to create it. This sculpture is now pretty much a mess that I can't tell what the person intended to do and what they didn't intend to do. And intention is unfortunately the difference between art and, well, garbage. So I'm going to triple click this object as well and delete it. Now another option is that I could Command Z and step backwards in time until before I warped it, because maybe it looked like that. That's something for you to do though. However, I'm just going to use my different options to select the whole thing and delete it. I don't have to go back to it because I have my original right here. Okay, so today I'm starting with the two sculptures that I showed you yesterday. As a quick review, I'm using the shape tools to create at least 10 overlapping shapes on each sculpture to make them very different from each other. I'm trying to stay within a similar scale to like maybe a car shape, a car size, so that I don't lose my person in this field of sculptures that I'm going to make. I want to be able to see him at all times and even recognize him if he had a face. All right, so I'm going to move on to my, let's see, I started this one with a square and this one with a hexagon. So I'm going to start this one with a square again, except I'm going to cut it differently from the start. We don't have to move in a line. It's a 3D program, so we might as well move into 3D. All right, so you might think, oh, he's starting with a square again. He just said he's not going to do that. Well, I'm going to change my square so that it's no longer a square and start with a nice ramp shape. All right, what I want to do with this ramp is show you that when I put the tool onto a surface that is angled, it's going to draw from that angled surface. So when I pull it up, it's going to bring it up at an angle, which could allow for really interesting things. I'm going to continue to work on my abstract sculpture by adding a few more shapes. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to color your sculptures or to paint them. And one way you could do it is if you wanted to paint the whole thing one color. I talked to you before about using the selection tool to triple click your object if you want to work with the whole thing at one time. And then we could just go to our paint bucket and select a color. Choose some pink here. And I'm just going to click it on the sculpture. Now I could go into my crayon box for colors. I could use my color wheel. So I'll show you that I could also make it green by going to my color wheel and doing that. Now if I don't want to select the whole object and I just want to work on one surface at a time, I'm going to move this color wheel over here so we can see a little bit better. I could use my black arrow selection tool to click the ground, which means that I'm selecting nothing. And now I can go over with my paint bucket and do it surface by surface. So I can choose a new color and I could just click the surfaces that I want to be that color. I could click a new color and click a couple more surfaces. So this will allow me to make my sculpture garden colorful and painted. However, I don't want you to go crazy with paint because I'd rather see a complete sculpture garden than an incomplete sculpture garden with a couple of colors on it. So keep that in mind when you're working with the paint bucket, how much time you're spending. I'm not going to spend 2 hours making every surface a different color. I'd rather do a couple surfaces until I find that it looks interesting and then move on to my next object. So I think it needs some purple and then I'm about done. So you'll notice that I spent about a minute maybe painting this, probably less. Okay, this one is done and I can move on to my next three-dimensional abstract geometric sculpture.